Exercise 2. In this exercise, as you can see with Creo 4.0, we're going to go ahead and build what you see up on the screen here. It's as complex as it might look. It really isn't it's a very simple little kind of like turbine wheel. So we're going to explore revolves, mirroring across center lines for two-dimensional objects, and planes when using 3D features, as well as revolve features. So let's take a look at this. It's an interesting exercise. Begin with the new part file and go ahead and name it capital E2 for exercise 2. And before we get started, if you go to File and Prepare, Model Properties, here you could verify your units. So for example, make sure you're in inch, pound, and second. If not, you could go to Change and make a change to that right here using the Units Manager. Okay, now let's go. We know we're going to use a Revolve feature, so go right to Revolve. So you could also use Sketch as an alternative. It just leaves a little ghost sketch behind, but either way is fine. I'm going to go to Revolve, and I'm going to select the front datum plane here. And now take the centerline tool, and from the origin drag a vertical centerline out, and from the origin drag a horizontal centerline out by clicking. Middle click to end that tool. Now let's go to the line tool, and along this edge, this horizontal line, a little bit of a distance away from the center line, click and drag up a vertical center line, just a short one. Click again, and then middle click 2 times to exit out of the sketch tool, or at least out of the line tool. Zoom up, and you can see here's some dimensions. First of all, we're going to temporarily put in a 2-inch dimension here for the height. And for the width, or the distance across here, it's just going to be 0.375. Later on, we will have to go back and change this once we mirror it, but just to show you, in the event that you maybe want to see it instead of rounded, you could right-click on the dimension and turn off rounded display value. And then you'll see the whole thing. Now over here in that 2-inch dimension, middle click a couple times and select it once and hit delete on your keyboard. We want that to be turned back to a weak dimension versus a strong dimension, so we could so it will easily adapt the change. Now go to the line tool. Glide up to the top here, click, and drag across a short little horizontal line. Click, drag down, but don't cross the center line. Stay up a little bit above the center line and at a slight angle like I have. It's going to eventually be 18 degrees when we put in the value. Click, and now zoom out with your scroll to make a little additional room and drag this across. Stay away from any little equal symbols. What I mean by that, watch this. If I go across here, eventually I get a little equal symbol to the right of my pointer along with the horizontal. You don't want that. Stay away from that one. So drag it back so you don't accidentally get that. Equal symbols can be useful. They could be turned off too, but it is something that we just don't want right yet. Okay, drag up a line. Make sure there's no equal symbols. It's vertical. Click across here, a very short line. Click, drag down, and connect to the center line. Now to end the chain, just simply middle click, and middle click a second time. And now you could scroll in on that. Or you could go up here to zoom to fit, or refit, I should say. Okay, another thing, we could turn off our datum display filters if you don't want to see those. Makes it a little easier to see, as is there's a lot to do here. Okay, first of all, a couple dimensions we could change. Let's find this one right here. Double click on that, change that to 0.25. Another one right here, I think we could change that to 0.125. And then this one right up here, change that to 0.4. The rest of them we're going to have to alter, and we're going to actually mirror this across in just a moment. Why don't we just go ahead and mirror it first? To do that, hit the middle mouse button a couple times to make sure you're out of everything. Now up here, just click and it will drag, and you're holding down the mouse button. That is the left mouse button. Drag across to select everything. Release it, And now go to the mirror tool. It should become active. If it's not active, try dragging across again. Go to mirror, and now select the horizontal centerline to mirror across. That's how we mirror. And we saw that briefly in last week. But now that you have that, let's zoom out a little bit farther. And we can start adding some additional dimensions here. Let's start and work our way from the inside out. First of all, you might notice this dimension turned weak again. You can tell that because it's a light blue versus the purple. Go ahead and double click on that. It's interesting. There is a way to actually change it. Like you could lock it if you like, or make it strong. Actually, since it's 0.375, let's just go ahead and make it strong. That way you don't have to worry. And also, if you want, you could middle click there and then right click on it. Oops, select it and then right click and find turn off rounded display value. Oops, didn't do it. Just a second. Okay. It actually is interesting. It's not doing what I expect. Let's try that again. Right click, turn off. There we go. Okay, that was interesting. Maybe operator error was going on there. I'm not sure. Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and add a few more dimensions here. Go to the dimension tool. Go ahead and select this vertex here, the corner, and then select the vertical center line, and then middle click up here. This is going to be 1 inch. Okay, and hopefully your angle is still intact there. If the angle is inverted, hit the undo button and then follow along and put the angle in dimension first, and then put the 1 inch. But let's do this next. So click on this line here, and click on this line right here. And between the two, middle click, and let's set that to 18 for 18 degrees, and hit enter. And it should start taking shape now finally. It's looking a little bit like what it's supposed to look like. All right, now there's a dimension over here. Middle click, and then you could click and drag it. That is going to be 2 inches, so go ahead and select 2. And finally, go to the dimension tool again and select this outermost line to the left and your vertical center line, and middle click. And that will be 2.5. Okay. And now that we have it fully defined, we could go ahead and hit OK. And it should automatically revolve for us. Now, I've had students in previous versions have some issues with the revolve. If you do have issues, don't select the revolve feature first. Go back, start a new part, and start drawing it from scratch on a sketch, and then go to revolve. I've seen where there's been issues there. Make sure you add your center lines, and hopefully it will work for you. Okay, so now that we have that, go ahead and hit the green check. Now let's go ahead and add some rounds here. Go to the round tool, and let's set it to an easy 0.12, and select these edges here, here. Oops, I accidentally selected a face. That's okay. Just keep clicking and it will bypass. Select this inner edge right here and this edge here. Now notice I'm rotating with the middle mouse button. That's how I'm getting around there. And we could actually add one up here as well. And then finally, let's add one right here. And this one we want to be different. So drag this out, and let's get it pretty big there, like 0.6. Let's go with 0.6. And now rotate around, and you should be able to add that same one over here. And look at that, we never had to change features. Go ahead and hit the green check mark. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and we want to put those ribs in. So for this, go to Sketch, or here, better yet, watch this. You can left click on the surface, not right. Left click, and you will find all these great tools available for you. Just go to Sketch. And now take your arc tool. Now for your arc here, we want to infer to some edges, but not that one right there necessarily. Let's go to References and select this edge and this edge and hit Close. Now go ahead and go to the arc tool. Go to that intersection point right here and drag a slight angle like that. Click, And notice you can make an arc. Now be very careful. Make this a very small arc. See where my center point is? It's like way out almost to the outer edge there. That's like perfect. Click. Middle click 2 times. And make sure it's anything above 1 inch. If not, go ahead and double click on it and change it to either 1.5 or 1 inch or 2 inches. We're just having a little fun here. I'm not going to go in all the depth there, but you should be able to see it just like that now. Now we could go to, if it's anything smaller, sometimes you have issues with the next feature here. So I'm going to hit the OK button and go to rib. And if you don't see a preview with your rib like this, that's an indication it's too tight of an arc. You have to straighten it out. Just, like make it 2 inches maybe. Anyhow, so now that we have our arc, go and look at that. It created a rib feature. Hit the green check mark. And now what we're going to do is click on the trajectory rib from the feature tree on the left here, and let's mirror that. So go to the mirror tool. If the mirror tool isn't available, you have to go select it again. Go ahead and select that. And what we want to do is select the top plane from our feature tree to mirror across. Notice that when we mirrored sketches, we used a center line. When we mirror three-dimensional features, we use a plane. Good to remember that. Okay, now hit the green check mark, and it should have carried one over to the other side. Now click a couple times, and let's control select both of those features from the feature tree. Release control, and now go underneath pattern and go to geometry pattern. And now it's looking for, first of all, instead of direction, select axis. And you're like, hey, we have no axis in here. You actually do. Any cylindrical object has one inside Creo. You just have to turn it on. Go to axis display, check the box. And lo and behold, now you might have to click back in this box. And now you could select that axis. And you'll see it will create 4. Let's have a little more fun with that. Let's put in maybe 7. And we want to, right here, maybe you're not sure, you can't do the division in your head, how to calculate the equal spacing. But in this case, we could just type in 360, which is 360 degrees, divided by, that's a /. And what do we want? 7. And hit enter. And you should see the little black dots there. Now be aware, if you click on a black dot, it turns white. That means it will not put that one feature in. So remember that for holes. You could turn them off individually. Okay, hit the green check mark. And there you have it. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put in some additional features here. This is where we have a little bit more fun and make this an exotic looking part. So select Revolve again and select your front plane again. Now take the centerline tool, draw a vertical centerline out. That's all you need. Now go to circle right here. Oh, we're not getting a reference. Go to the references button over here on the left and reference this edge. Now you could go back to circle and it should snap right there. Drag out a circle there and then one over here, and actually middle click. Make it 1 inch. Now let's go back to circle and get one right up here on this edge. Take a careful look where I'm drawing it. It's kind of like right in the middle of that half, so at a quarter. Drag this out and look at this. You can make it equal. For once, we actually do want the equal symbol. See that right there? Make sure it gets to equal. Click. You have to get roughly to the same size. And look at this. You could infer to this directly below. Click, and you want equal again. When it snaps to equal, look at that. It's beautiful. Middle click. Hit OK. And now it's going to create this. Now we don't want that. We actually want it removed instead of added. So over here, select the Remove Material button. And look at that. Pretty cool stuff. And hit the green check mark. Now it doesn't quite look like my image here. How did I get that? Well, find the Revolve feature. Right click. Actually hit the little arrow to the left of the Revolve too. It drops down a sketch. Now right click on that sketch and go to the gold ball with the pencil. change this. Let's try to change it to 1.5. Whoa, wrong button, 1.5. Now let's see what happens here. Hit OK. And that's more like it. Now we've got a really interesting looking feature going on there. Okay, so again, we're just having a little bit of fun. It's not exactly like mine. I don't even remember the dimensions I chose on that. I was just having fun with it. But look at that. You can make these exotic looking parts and such. Okay, let's go ahead and add some additional features to this. For example, let's make it glass. So let's go to View, turn on Appearances, and find PTC Glass. Go ahead and select PTC Glass. And now down here on the filter, if you remember from the other one, go to Part, and select the part, and then middle click. Now it looks transparent, but watch this, this is where it gets really cool. Go to Applications, and turn on Photorealistic Rendering. And just wait a couple minutes, depending upon your computer speed, it will photo render this, and the glass effect on this particular model is just phenomenal. The longer you let it wait, the better it's going to look. Again, I have a 24 core processor on here for a server typically, so mine might be a little bit faster than yours. There are faster processors by all means out there, but this utilizes all the threads typically, as you saw in the video E1. And there you go. There is your exotic looking part that was made rather simply by just a series of revolves, mirroring, and a little bit of cutting. Okay, there are 2 labs that go along with this in the manual. Again, the manual can be located on vertanu1.com. And so right here, vertanu1.com, and then up at the top go to instructional manuals and the Creo Parametric. I hope to have this to 4.0 very soon. I have not updated it yet, but it's right now set to 3.0. But that's okay. Once you click on it, it will bring up the manual, and here you can see the syllabi, all the information week by week, what is expected, as well as links to the videos. These need to be updated. These are the Creo 2.0. Rather old, but they are still valid. And then the points totals and the instructions. So if we go a little bit farther down, we will get to the labs that go along with this exercise. The first lab is lab 2. It's a bolt. Oh, and then there's the quiz 1. I'll go through both of these. So for the bolt, lab 2, you can see it's a 2-inch high bolt with the radius on top. It even has a cutout. That's a tricky part. The rest of it's pretty simple. There's a little chamfer at the bottom, 1.7 shaft length. So, and the diameter of the head is 1 inch. So let's go ahead and get that done. Now, remember, don't leave this on. I actually noticed it takes up a significant amount of processing power, even though it looks like it's completed. So hit close here. And just make sure to save this, go to File. I usually suggest save as a backup. That way you're not changing the name. When you go to save as backup, you could go ahead and it keeps the same name and you just redirect it wherever you want it. But let's go to New, and this is going to be L2 for Lab 2. Hit OK. And most of the labs coincide with the exercise that you just learned. So really it's all about the same thing. So again, it's a revolve feature. Select revolve, select the front plane, draw your center line. You're not going to need a horizontal center line for this one, just a vertical. Now take the line tool, draw up. The bolt is 2 inches in length, so middle click, double click, change that to 2. Now go back to the line tool, and at the bottom here, click, drag this across. You could put the chamfer in, but I'll show you the chamfer as a feature. It's a little bit easier. Drag this up. This is about 1.7, but I'm just guesstimating where it's here. And then out here, it comes out a little bit, and then straight up, then middle click. Now with the dimensions given, the bolt shaft is a 1/2 inch, so this actually needs to be 0.25 because technically it's only 1/2 of a revolve. This needs to be 1.7. That we don't know yet until I look at it a little closer. And this one is going to be 0.1. Okay, with those dimensions given, and one more, here let's go to dimensions, select this line to the center line, middle click, and the head of the bolt is 1 inch, so this would be a 1/2 inch because we're looking at the radius. Now go to the arc tool, make sure you are in 3-point arc, connect those 2 points, and notice down below, look at that, it snaps to center, and you get that little symbol in the green box. That's perpendicular. Perfect. Middle click, and then middle click 2 times, and voila. Let's go to dimension, and actually I don't think it needs it. It's fully defined. Never mind. Okay, so with that being said, hit OK, and it should revolve 360 degrees. Now the chamfer is really easy. Click on chamfer, set it distance to distance at 0.03. You could set it at 45 degrees by 0.03, but it comes out to that anyway if the distances are equal. So click on that little edge and hit apply. We're not going to put the thread in, the thread we learned in the advanced class, so that will be exercise 13, I believe. So if you want to move ahead, you can see how a thread is put in. But right now, we're just covering the basics. Now select the front plane. This is the tricky one. You could go to extrude actually on the front plane. And for this one, we're going to go to centerline again and add a vertical centerline. Middle click a couple times, go to line, and up here, draw 1/2 of the cutout and have it pierce above, just like I have here, like that. Now, guess what we're going to do? Yes, we are going to mirror it. So select that geometry, go to mirror, and select the vertical centerline. Now, the base of this is 0.1. The angle, first of all, before the angle, select this bottom edge to this bottom edge here of the head of the bolt, and that's going to be 0.15 to locate it. Then I would recommend putting in your angle. And middle click, and that needs to be 30 degrees. And if it goes higher like this, that's just fine, because that's just cutting air anyway. We're making like a tool to cut this, kind of like if you were to cut it, make a cutting tool. Okay, hit OK. And now you can see if you rotate, it's going to go one way or the other, but we want to remove material. So select remove material, and unfortunately it's only 1/2. So that means over here we have to go both directions and extend it out past the head of the bolt. About 2 inches should do it. Hit the green check. And that is the bolt. Okay, moving along to the quiz. Start a new part. Name it Q1. Hit OK. Now for the quiz, we're going to go ahead and go to extrude. I would recommend doing this on the top plane because it kind of sits on a table. This is like a fixture. And now go to the center rectangle tool, which I showed you last week. Use the center, go up to the center here, drag this out, and let's set the parameters for the quiz. It's kind of hard to read here. 6 by 3. So 6 wide by 3 inches. Oops. There we go. Now draw vertical and a horizontal center line for mirroring purposes. You cannot mirror across these, otherwise they're going to come out incorrect. Be aware of that. You want to mirror across the new center lines we just drew, vertical and horizontal. Add one circle here. Don't touch that line. Stay away from that line, or otherwise you'll lock yourself in. If that happens, delete this and start over again. Okay, this is going to be 0.75 offset. This one, 0.75 offset. And the hole is 0.5. Okay, and now we want to mirror that across. So select the circle and go to mirror. Select the vertical center line. You can only do one at a time, with the exception of when you have two on the same side. So this next one, we'll just click and drag a fence to surround the two, and go to mirror, select the horizontal center line this time. Notice I'm not drawing in the center circle. You could, but it's actually a little bit faster doing it the way I'm doing, I think, just by a couple seconds. So really, it's not much of a difference. Now this is going to be 1 inch thick if I'm correct, but let me verify that. It is 1 inch thick. Okay, and hit the green check mark. Now you can put the fillets on. Now the order of operations here, just like math, makes a difference. If you put the chamfer in first, you're going to get sharp corners. If you put the rounds in first, and then the chamfer over it, it's going to turn out much nicer. So it doesn't always work that way, but in this case, it is of benefit. So the radius is 0.25. Let me just verify that here. You can see the radius 0.25 typical, TYP. Select that edge there, that edge here, this one here, and that one right there. Hit apply. Now go to chamfer and set the chamfer distance to distance 0.125. Select this edge and hit apply. Almost done. Now go to, actually let's do that shortcut key here. Click. And then look at, we have extrude. Let's go to extrude there. Okay, draw a circle right at the center. That was the benefit to drawing it centered. And I'm afraid I don't remember what that is. That's 2.25. And notice there's no hole yet. Just hit OK. And this reaches the height of 0.75. Hit the green check mark. You could go ahead and put another round in there of 0.25. That's the typical. Oops. There we go. Select that edge. That is not a chamfer. That's a radius, a round. So have a lot of students make that mistake. Okay, now we could put the hole on here. So again, you can select that face and go to extrude. There is a hole tool that we could use, but we'll learn that in exercise 4. That's coming up in about a couple weeks. Click on the center, drag this out. This is going to be 1.25 for the diameter. Hit OK. Notice this. If you flip it, it will automatically go to cut for you. But then over here, you just have to select through all, which is to intersect with all surfaces. Hit the apply button, and you're done. If you ever want to make a change, by the way, and you're already past here, you know from my videos that you could edit any of these by clicking on them and going to the gold ball. Or you could do this. You could double click, and it brings up the dimensions. So if you double click, depending upon where you double click, it will bring up the dimensions and parameters for those surfaces that you've selected. Okay, and that concludes exercise 2.